ZenlessZoneZero has just finished its 2.4 livestream, and all I can say is honestly wow. There's been tons of reveals, huge character introductions, and so much more. And with this, today I'll be breaking down everything you missed from one of Zenless's craziest character reveals ever. Without further ado though, let's get straight into it. The stream started off with Banyue and Mr. Z, and some details about Banyue's past and how much he knows about the miasma was a bit teased and hinted at. Dialyn then made an appearance, but not much was revealed until they immediately threw us into a teaser. In said teaser, Sarah appears with screams in the background, which is a pretty big story foreshadowing, but once again Banyue and Dialyn appeared once again, and alongside them was Ye Shunguang. Apologies in advance by the way for the pronunciation, I swear they've said this name like 8 different ways. The teaser did also show someone writing in a journal, which I assume we'll learn about later. Then in terms of story, the livestream actually took a different route, with spending way more time explaining the story of ZenlessZoneZero, and the first thing we were introduced to was Krampus Company. They announced new story comics involving Krampus, and the TLDR is that Krampus hires judges who have the authority to act however they wish, and with this is where characters like Banyue and Dialyn are from. Additional story details about Ye Shiyuan, Ye Shunguang, and the Cursed Sword were also included in this section, and additional details were also included, like how Ye Shunguang's Cursed Sword has had all of its previous wielders die. That said, although it was kind of spoilered in the teaser, so long as Ye Shunguang doesn't unlock the core, she'll be fine, but again, that doesn't really seem to be the case as we just saw her unlock it. Ye Shiyuan was once again shown as well, and with him, a new enemy was also showcased, but then we were finally taken to the Dialyn Showcase and breakdown section. Dialyn is an S-rank physical stun agent, and while on field, she has 2 resources, Customer Complaint and her Review System. Her charge basic attack, Get Lost, will activate a chain attack, and when used in this specific way with enough resources, your next character will then automatically use their ultimate, which is absolutely insane. Her EX special also has 3 forms in the form of Rock, Paper, Scissors, which also looks cool, but hitting enemies as usual will generate resources, and when her resources are maxed, she buffs the team, as with most characters at this point. But more interestingly, this is the first time that a stunner has actually given off so much buffing and debuffing at the same time, which is pretty insane all things considered. On that note, we should talk about Paper, which specifically applies a debuff that increases stun damage and stun duration, putting her in contention with characters like Lighter. But in terms of the gameplay loop that they described, you apply Paper, generate resources, use Get Lost, automatically use your ultimate with your other characters, and then one-shot whatever you're fighting. Next, we move to Banyue's Showcase and Breakdown, and to start things off, he is indeed an S-rank Fire Rupture agent with a high skill ceiling. He starts combat with 60 Adrenaline, and he does have chain-based attacks with specific perfect cancel windows, alongside correctly timed inputs that give additional hits, faster casts, and other unique effects. The TLDR Banyue's gameplay is, however, that he plays a lot like a fighting game character with a lot of precision, timing, and execution, but now let's actually take a look at some of his skills. Regarding his dodge, he has a perfect block if you time correctly, and regarding his core passive, Banyue has a special form known as Visage of Wrath, which of course gives him a new form and added effects to his kit. In said state, he has a unique resource that he manages, and said unique resource seems to cap out at 150. In terms of his additional ability, however, this triggers when he has a support or a stun character on your team, which does seem pretty promising for who he'll be used with in the future, but then they also mentioned that using things like his EX special via an alternative basic attack or quick command input will grant you 1 additional stack of one of his mechanics, which again already looks absolutely insane. Beyond this, they also mentioned that using certain quick commands will increase the speed of certain animations or even throw out additional beads at an enemy, but overall they described him as a great synergistic partner with quick swap and off-field buffing teams. Next, they introduced 2 new Bangboos, and the first is Berkblick, which is a Bangboo that summons turrets using its laser sensor. Now this specific Bangboo of course ties alongside the Krampus faction, and with it, when you have Krampus members on your team, you deal more days. The new Lego Bangboo, also known as Build and Boo, was also showcased with supports improving the effect of said Bangboo, but then we were given banner details with the first half being Dialyn, and alongside her a rerun of Hugo, and with the second half we were shown Banyue and Ellen's rerun coming alongside him as well. However, beyond this, we were also then shown the new wallpapers for Dialyn and Banyue, which looked cool, and as usual, we're being given 10 free pulls for the limited and Bangboo banners. In terms of events, we do have the return of the TFT chess event with new Bangboos, upgrades, and agent buffs, and we also have the return of the mecha event with new attacks and skills. What I found really cool about the mecha event, however, is that now you get to play as a Bangboo that actually plays in combat where you as the Bangboo are fighting, which looks really cool. But then we were shown an event with Zhao where we get to assess businesses for rewards, and after this we saw a new Ye Shunguang hangout event where you actually go on a date with her, you take photos, you hang out, and you place much of your memories in her diary, which is very cute to say the least. Following this, they they also updated the simulated sequence showdown, and while this is normally just a combat event that you complete periodically, they recently added a new endless sandbox mode that lets you now test new characters before release, which is honestly really nice if you're on the fence about testing or playing a character. Finally though, as usual, the Shield defense, Deadly Assault, and Hollow Zero will all be updated as of Dialyn and Banyue's release, but as a reminder, Vivian's skin is also still available if you're looking to pull her before version 2.5. Gameplay update wise, there wasn't a huge amount, but what they did change was actually pretty insane. First, they're removing the rewards from the treasure shop, and the rewards will then be moved to other sources, but they also added auto management completely to Sweep End Temple for faster clearing, which is a huge relief for anyone that hasn't already gone through the Sweep End Temple, though you do need to be level 35 to do so. They also improved some of the Bangboo sorting, as they now sort by latest and highest level appearing first, but overall, the gameplay update section was pretty short, though honestly, they've done a lot to improve the game, and these final changes, including changes to the temple, are more than welcome. Next, we had a writer interview talking about some of the story spoilers for season 2 and the world lore, and I will preface right now and give a disclaimer, spoilers ahead, he does kind of break down a lot in terms of what's happened already in Zenless, but in case you're curious, he now mentioned that Sarah now bears the creator's mark, and all the Exaltists are now gone except for her basically, and furthermore, they describe the creator as a primordial god who will return and we haven't seen enough of. Tops was then broken down a bit more, with this being the top tier tycoons controlling businesses, though tops themselves lack legal authority and are kept in check by the government or military. As a result, they then introduced the Krampus division, and Krampus members must be skilled, with each holding a unique philosophy of judgment and also obviously being pretty powerful. Spook Shack was also then I guess clarified and broken down as just being an internet forum, though of course a lot of the activities and events and the reason why they were introduced into the story was revealed. But finally, there were additional details introduced regarding the AI and Helios Academy, which were two storylines that I think most people are very curious about. And the first detail that you have to know is that the 4 Great AI storyline is returning, and Fairy is not the only currently awakened AI, which is a huge story spoiler. In addition to this, as you might have seen in the past, Bell and Wise triggered a special shared characteristic that future versions will expand on, and this is huge news for anyone that was curious, as I myself am also very hopeful that this will lead to something insane in the future. In addition to this, however, in case you missed it, Seed is also an incomplete test subject from Helios Academy, and with some additional details from the story, we can conclude that Bell and Wise are supposed to be of similar or the same origin as Bell and Wise. Now, in addition to this, you should also know that the first generation of Void Hunters will also appear, with some opposing the Void Hunter title, but then they broke down some of the Qingming Sword and Ye Shunguang's storyline spoilers. First and foremost, the Qingming Sword did not originate from Yunkuei Summit, and it was originally a dangerous entity that fed on humans. A master, however, then subdued it and forged it into the Qingming Sword after being unable to break it, but this master's teachings formed the basis of Yunkuei Summit. In case you're curious, however, the Qingming Sword and Miyabi's blades are both intentionally linked as being harmful yet powerful blades, but noteworthy as well is that apparently Yixuan gifted the Qingming Sword to Ye Shunguang, but is actually deceiving her while she's looking for a solution, which is an interesting plot point that we'll probably see more of in the future. Finally, season 3 introduces an old friend and a new mysterious ally, which we'll see in the future, but at the end of it all, the writer promised a more cohesive and enjoyable story, which honestly, based on this live stream, looks to be something that they're focusing on, as they do spend an insane amount of time going over the story and some details that you might have missed. That was everything that was revealed from Zenless's newest stream, however, and honestly, the characters, the story, and the new direction that they're taking looks amazing. Personally, I'm excited, and I'm sure everyone that skipped or was waiting for characters like Banyue and Dialyn are on fire waiting for this update. But thanks again for watching though, guys. Stay safe, stay healthy. Good night.